Welcome to Betrayal Stories. In today's video, the evening sun stretched across the small house, painting the walls in shades of amber and gold. Elena stood by the window, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had long gone cold. The quiet hum of the neighborhood faded as her thoughts drifted back to everything she had endured. The love she had lost, the promises that had faded, and the son she had raised on her own. For years, she had carried the weight of two roles, a mother and a father. She had learned to be strong when she wanted to fall apart, to smile when her heart was breaking, and to keep going when the world seemed intent on testing her. Her son, Ethan, had always been her reason to survive. But lately, something had changed between them. Ethan, once open and talkative, had grown distant, withdrawn, quiet in ways that frightened her. The boy who once told her everything now barely spoke at dinner. He had a wall around him, one that Elena couldn't climb no matter how hard she tried. She often wondered if she had done something wrong. Maybe she'd been too strict or too busy. Or maybe life's constant hardships had turned her into someone colder than she meant to be. All she wanted was to protect him. But sometimes love, when mixed with fear, becomes something heavy, something misunderstood. That evening, as the sky turned crimson, she decided to try again. She made his favorite meal, pasta with garlic bread, just the way he liked it, and waited. She wanted the night to feel normal, like it used to be when laughter filled their small kitchen. But when Ethan came home, his eyes looked tired, distant, almost haunted. "Hey, honey," she said softly, forcing a smile. "Dinner's ready?" He hesitated before replying. "I already ate, Mom. Sorry." The words stung more than she expected. Elena nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. "Oh, that's okay." He walked past her, muttering something about needing to finish homework. The sound of his door closing echoed through the house, heavier than thunder. Elena stood still, staring at the empty hallway. She remembered when he used to tell her everything, when he would run to her with scraped knees or talk for hours about his dreams. Now, silence was all that remained between them. Later that night, as the world outside grew quiet, Elena knocked softly on his door. "Ethan, can I come in?" A pause, then a quiet, "Yeah." She stepped inside. His room was dim, cluttered with books and sketches. Ethan sat at his desk, his face half lit by the glow of his laptop. He looked older than his age, tired in a way no young man should be. "Are you okay?" she asked. He shrugged. "I'm fine. You've been distant lately." "I've just been busy, Mom. That's all." She studied him for a moment. "You know you can talk to me, right?" Ethan sighed, finally meeting her eyes. "Yeah, I know." But his tone said otherwise. That night, Elena lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heart heavy with worry. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something deeper than just teenage moodiness. A mother always knows when her child is hurting. Days turned into weeks, and the silence between them grew thicker. Ethan spent more time outside, often returning home late, avoiding her questions. One evening, she decided to wait up for him. When he finally walked through the door close to midnight, his face looked pale, his eyes red as if he had been crying. Elena's heart pounded. "Ethan, where have you been?" she asked, trying not to sound panicked. He froze. "Out with friends." "Friends," she repeated. "Which friends?" He looked away. "Just people, Mom. Stop worrying." But she saw through his words. His hands trembled slightly and his voice cracked. Something inside her broke. That familiar ache that comes from watching someone you love drift into darkness. Later that night, after he went to his room, Elena found his jacket tossed on the couch. She picked it up to hang it, and a small folded letter fell from the pocket. Her heart stopped. She hesitated, but fear outweighed guilt. Slowly, she opened it. It wasn't from a friend. It was a notice from his college, about suspension. Ethan hadn't told her. Her legs weakened as she sat down. Tears welled up in her eyes. All the long hours she had worked, all the sacrifices she made so he could study, and he hadn't even told her he was in trouble. The next morning, when he came down for breakfast, Elena placed the letter on the table. "Do you want to tell me what this is?" Ethan froze, his face draining of color. "You went through my things?" "I found it by accident," she said softly. "Ethan, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd be disappointed," he snapped. "You always are." His voice echoed through the kitchen like shattered glass. Elena took a deep breath, trying to steady her voice. "I'm not disappointed in you. I'm hurt because you didn't trust me." "Trust you?" he said bitterly. "You wouldn't understand, Mom. You've always tried to control everything. My school, my friends, my life." She blinked back tears. "I only wanted what's best for you." "Well, maybe what's best for me isn't what you want." The silence that followed was unbearable. Ethan stormed out, slamming the door. Elena stood there, trembling, her heart in pieces. Days passed, and he didn't come home. She called, texted, even went to his college. No answer. Every passing hour felt like an eternity. The house grew emptier, colder. She sat by the window every night, waiting for headlights that never appeared. Finally, one night, she heard the sound of the door unlocking. Ethan stepped inside, his clothes wrinkled, his eyes hollow. Elena rushed to him. "Ethan, where were you?" He didn't answer. He just looked at her, guilt written all over his face. "Mom," he whispered, voice cracking. "I messed up. I didn't know what to do." Tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to be angry, but seeing him broken, she couldn't. She reached for him, pulling him into her arms. "You're home now. That's what matters." He broke down, crying against her shoulder, the way he hadn't done since he was a child. All the walls between them began to crumble. That night, they sat together for hours. Ethan confessed everything. How he had fallen behind in classes. How the pressure to be perfect had driven him to isolate himself. He admitted that he had felt like a failure, afraid to face her because he didn't want to disappoint her. Elena listened quietly, her heart breaking. "Ethan," she said gently, "I never needed you to be perfect. I just needed you to be honest with me." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to hurt you." She smiled faintly through her tears. "I know, sweetheart. We'll figure this out together." Over the next few weeks, things began to change. They talked more. Small conversations at first, then deeper ones. The distance slowly faded. Elena encouraged him to face his challenges, to talk to his college counselor, to rebuild his path. But trust, once broken, takes time to heal. One evening, Elena sat alone on the porch watching the stars. Ethan came outside and sat beside her. "Do you ever regret raising me alone?" he asked quietly. Her heart tightened. "Never," she said. "It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the most beautiful." "You're my greatest blessing," he smiled faintly. "Even when I mess up?" "Especially then," she said softly. "That's when you need love the most." The air was calm, filled with the scent of jasmine from the garden. For the first time in a long while, Elena felt peace, fragile but real. Months later, Ethan began turning his life around. He returned to college, found a part-time job, and spent more time at home. Elena noticed how he had grown, not just older but wiser, more grounded. One evening, he brought home a small gift. "It's for you," he said shyly. She opened the box and found a delicate silver bracelet engraved with the words, "For every sacrifice you made." Her eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, it's beautiful," he smiled. "You've given me everything, Mom. It's time I start giving back." That night, as she stood by his room watching him study, Elena realized that sometimes love isn't about being perfect. It's about staying when everything falls apart, about forgiving when it hurts the most, and believing that broken things can still be made whole. Years passed, and the memories of that painful time faded into lessons. Ethan graduated, found his path, and made sure his mother never had to struggle again. At his graduation ceremony, as he walked across the stage, his eyes searched the crowd until they found hers. Elena stood there, clapping through tears, pride shining in her eyes. When it was over, he rushed to her, hugging her tightly. "I did it, Mom," he whispered. She smiled through tears. No, we did it. Their story wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was messy, complicated, full of mistakes, but also filled with love, forgiveness, and second chances. As the years went on, Ethan never forgot that one truth his mother had taught him: that betrayal doesn't always come from others. Sometimes we betray ourselves when we stop believing we're worthy of love, and healing begins the moment we forgive, not just others, but also ourselves. Elena grew older, her hair turning silver, her eyes softer with wisdom. And Ethan, now a man with a family of his own, often visited her, sitting on that same porch where they once rebuilt their bond. "Mom," he said one day, "you know, everything I am, it's because of you." She smiled, her heart full. "And everything I am," she replied, "is because of you." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in gold. The same color it had been on the evening everything began to change. But this time it wasn't loneliness that filled the house. It was peace. It was love. It was home. Because sometimes the greatest betrayals don't destroy families. They rebuild them.